It's really exciting to think that we don't have to adhere to these traditional models of domestic violence services. And that's what DV Housing First at its core has taught us. There was a real idea when we first got it that it was housing money, and that's what we were going to use it for, was housing. And then when we opened it up and realized that, like, your program participant doesn't have to be in our housing services. They can just need a month's rent or a car repair or whatever it may be, and have never entered our shelter. And in fact, we would like to keep them out of our shelter. So how can we do that?
Housing is a foundation for individuals in general. Certainly, domestic violence survivors deal with homelessness at a really high rate, unfortunately. And so being able to understand not only domestic violence, but also understanding that idea of housing as a foundation, as a springboard, not only for individuals as survivors, but also their families, and even just raising consciousness, I mean, if you don't have a place to live, it's really hard to raise consciousness, right? So being able to allow them a place to call their home, not just their house, not just a shelter, and allow them to grow from there as a person was really what made the job so great for me.
I was in a very abusive marriage, and finally I left that and ended up with a very abusive man, and then it kind of became a pattern. I ended up losing my job. I don't have a lot of support out here, and I was basically sleeping in the car with my 2 boys. It was pretty cold. I was about to break. I had nothing else. I had no other resources, and that allowed me to kind of get on my feet and be in a position where I could think.
So no longer was it something that, survivors need housing too, and that type of thing, but it became an automatic, an essential component to what it meant to serve domestic violence survivors.
I was evicted from my last place, and I was homeless, and I'm in a shelter, and my credit's really bad, and then I don't have a job. I had a rental debt. Even looking for an apartment with those kind of obstacles, you have to face the possibility that people are going to look down on you.
Success might be being in their own apartment and safe for the very first time, or their kids are actually in the same school 3 years in a row. It's attached itself so much to our mission and our vision of not telling people what they need, but asking what we can do to help, and then helping them achieve their own goals, not telling them what we think their goals should be.
I ended up talking to Leah with LifeWire. I felt really comfortable talking to her. I never felt judged. There were so many needs, but I think the most immediate was for my children and I to have shelter. So because of the program, they were able to pay off the back rent that I owed at 2 different properties. And because of that, I was able to be accepted and live here. There's no way that I could have done that with all the obstacles. So it was just a huge blessing.
Being able to say yes, being able to allow not only this idea of empowerment, but to really, call that dignity from someone and say, what is it that you need? Okay, I think we can do this, this, and this for you, according to what your needs and desires and wants are, and really help them reach their goals in that manner.
Just to be able to have peace of mind, focus on the goals, establish goals that I would have never been able to think about to begin with if you're worried about survival. I kind of was able to deal with the psychological and emotional and mental impacts of what I was feeling. I was even able to get health services and referrals, which was very helpful. The financial piece was one aspect, and it was important, but I wouldn't say it was the most important aspect. I think the ongoing case management, that was a huge part of it for me.
In an effort to truly work toward a society where gender violence is not an issue, we need to be asking people what it is they need to solve the problems in their lives. What we can do is change individual lives in a way that lasts. And I guess what we've proven with DV Housing First is that these services last.
I think it's meant to allow people to get on their feet so that they can move forward and be independent. And I feel like, okay, I'm at that point where I feel good, I feel strong.